Hello and welcome to the Live Young podcast. I'm so excited because today I have Eric Young, who is known as the flexible dieting coach. And not only do we have the same last name, but Eric has been a really beautiful part of my journey. I felt called to connect with him when I just couldn't figure out, what was going on with this disconnect in my body physically. And not only did Eric just respond, but he also almost held me in this space of not giving up. And so thank you for just showing up in that way and honoring that you have a lot of clients, but the fact that it just felt as if you really cared. And I think there's so many people on the internet that are coaches or, healers and promoting all sorts of things. But I think it's really unique when I feel a true care, you showed up with real TLC. And I think that's probably what sets you apart from other people doing what you do. So thank you for taking the time today and for taking the time on the journey here.
Yeah, of course. I am just passionate about what I do, and I am a healer. I love helping, and I think that's why we vibe really good because you're also, in that space too. So it was definitely a good fit.
Yeah. So that
Thanks.
said, so your sort of handle is the flexible dieting coach, and that holds a lot of weight in itself because I think it can be confusing. Well, what does that mean? And to start, what would you say that you do?
Yeah, so I would say that I mean the flexible, that's part of what I do obviously, but I would say that I'm just I'm here to guide and help, and I want to put people in a better spot so they don't feel restricted with food. I mean, obviously, I put together meal plans and all that stuff, but I don't know, I'm just here to just change people's lives and really just try to make an impact so that they can see food differently and be able to still be flexible with life, enjoying life, all of that, right? That's all part of it. Food is related to all of that when it comes to holidays and birthdays and all that stuff. And I want people to feel comfortable.
I love that. And I think even in that, beyond that, food is connected to celebration, it is a part of everyday life. And for me, there's such a deeper meaning to this idea of nourishment and how we feed ourselves beyond just
Yeah.
with the food we consume, but really the energy that we surround ourselves with, how we speak to ourselves, all of it is sustenance in a way. So I think considering your practice and creating the safe space, it's so much far beyond the flexibility expands and extends. So I'm so curious,
Yeah.
why this? Why were you called to heal through this, modality?
Yeah, well, my background, I'll just give you short cliff notes or whatever, but I came from corporate America. I've worked for different banks and things like that. I've always been into health and fitness, and I've been working out since I was literally 18, got my gym membership, and I still have that same membership from, I don't even know, 18, 20, a long time ago, 25 plus years. But, I transitioned, I quit my job, started doing coaching and started doing personal training first. And then that kind of transitioned into the online space where I'm at now. Um, I did a few bodybuilding competitions and I trained a lot of competitors. What I saw was that once women would do shows, I mean, obviously they would restrict themselves as normal. They would do a lot of cardio, a lot of activity. Coaches would just put them through a lot to get them where they needed to get to and not focusing on health. It was literally just let's get them in shape. I want to have as many people as I can in the show, and I want them to all do really well. So it just promotes more business for them. What they weren't doing is they weren't reverse dieting, and they weren't giving plans for these women who had just, dieted for 4 or 5 months, looked the best they've ever looked, were able to complete and I'm not complete, we're able to compete and do very well at it. But then I would see these women 2 months later and it would look like they've never worked out in their life. Like they had put on so much weight so quick and no one was talking about it. And all these women were coming, this is when, social media was, it's not as, not like it is now, but we were seeing a lot of people gaining all this weight and it was bad. It was really hard on their hormones. They felt terrible, and it was all because these coaches didn't really seem to care about reverse dieting and adding food in slowly once they had just been used to eating 1,000 calories a day. So that was really where I wanted to make an impact and I wanted to change this because like you have to taper back. Like I said, people were doing 1 a days, 2 a days. They were working out a lot, eating very little food, and you have to taper all that stuff back, and then you have to slowly start adding that all back in very slowly. So that's really how I got to do what I got to do, is because I saw all of this happening, and I'm like, there is a better way, but it needs to get out there. And now I feel like I finally have that voice and that platform to really help women. And again, not just in the competition world, but just everyday life, where women have restricted and try to lose weight, and then they got to a point where they couldn't anymore. And then it's just like, what do you do? And like, that's where I come in play, obviously.
So with all of that said, like, what is just this idea of reverse dieting? Because I think now
Yeah.
it's a more common term, but I still don't think people really honor or understand what it is. Because even with
Yeah.
what you're saying, like restrictive eating, and then like your body sort of, this machine gets used to the input and the output. And you could, like you said, be eating 1,000 calories a day, working out for 3 hours and still not lose weight. So can you just
Right.
break down what reverse
Yeah.
dieting is?
Of course. So the reverse dieting is basically, well, it's the opposite of dieting. So dieting would be putting yourself in a caloric deficit to lose weight. Reverse dieting is the exact opposite. So what we'd be doing is we'd be slowly adding in food over a period of time to bring your maintenance calories up so that you can get to a sustainable place with your calories, or get food to where you need to get to, like calorie wise, to where if you wanted to go back to losing, you can start pulling food back. So basically, like, we're just slowly adding food in over a period of time to get your body used to eating more. And then once it's used to eating more, then like whatever your maintenance calories are your calories. So
Hmm.
let's just say if someone was eating 1,100 calories a day, they weren't seeing changes in their physique. They're doing all of the activity and they plateaued. So the only thing to do, if we can't take away any more food, would be to just slowly add in food. So we would slowly progressively add in food. We can't be aggressive with it or you'll start gaining. So we just have to slowly add in, like, it'd be, let's just call it maybe 250 calories a month. So you're just slowly adding to get those maintenance calories up. And then once your maintenance calories are up, you're able to just maintain where you're at if you're happy with your physique. Or if you wanted to continue to try to improve your physique, then you would go back to being in a deficit and go back to like dieting to where you're trying to lose weight.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's probably the best way I can explain it. Just slowly adding in food over a period of time to give your body a break, because you do have to look at weight loss in cycles. If you're in weight loss mode for too long of a period of time, your body just, obviously, like I said, it adapts, and that becomes your maintenance. So most people, I feel like, just go on these, I don't know, 6 to 8 months worth of trying to diet and lose weight, and really it's just not effective because their body's adapted to what they're doing. So
Yeah, I mean, even like the psychology behind it, growing up late 80s, early 90s, it was like all the low fat era and everything was about,
yeah.
low calorie. And I think that's shifted so much, like then like Atkins and then all this keto and paleo and like high
Right.
fat, low carb. And I think now it feels like there's starting to be like a comeback to center where carbs are getting some good PR again, because you need carbs, you
Yes.
need energy, right? And I think in working
Right.
with you and also understanding this idea of reverse dieting, well, we can go through the journey, but I think high level, it's sort of like de-villainized like food for me, just like
Yeah.
really seeing it as like, if you're an active human, I'm very active, like I need to fuel my body. My body needs, if I want to be the most efficient machine, I need to feed my body the right amount to actually just like feel good. I think the problem is, as you said, you're on these 6 to 8 months or I don't know, 5 year dieting sprees. You're always eating
Yeah.
low calorie. Your body becomes accustomed to feeling, like malnutrition. You're not sustained even, but it sustains itself because it comes back. We are born to adapt, right? So,
Yes. Yes.
so in all of that, I guess my question is for anyone listening, like, when do people come to you? Like,
Uh,
where do they come in the journey? What do you get?
all over the journey. I mean, I have people just starting out. I have, I would say, it's a great question. I would say the majority of the women are coming to me are what I just pretty much said: women that have plateaued, they're eating healthy, they're working out 7 days a week, 6, 7 days a week, and they're just tired of not seeing changes, or they're tired of not having that physique that they like. People want to look like they work out, right? Like if you bust your ass in the gym and you're working out, 7 days a week, you're, lifting for an hour a day, like you want to see those changes. Like you want to look like you work out. And I feel like a lot of women come to me and they're already doing all of the stuff, but yet their body isn't like showcasing the amount of effort that they're putting in day after day after day. So
Mm.
I think that's probably the most of my clientele is like that. Like they've kind of already come to me, they've already taken the food away, and now they're coming to me and saying, "Hey, I want to continue to lose weight." And then that's where I'm like, "Hey, I saw your 3-day journal. You're only eating 900 calories. It's impossible for me to try to have you start losing weight now because I'd have to take away food and there's no food to take away." So that's pretty much, that's normal, like MO right now. Like I usually start off by reverse dieting, adding food for the first 2 to 3 months, depending where they started at. And then once their body's used to eating, I try to go between 1,700 and 1,900 calories. So once I can get these clients in that calorie range, then we're able to start that actual weight loss mode. And then I'm able to start taking food away and, start seeing that fat loss they were trying to see for the last, 6 months, and they weren't able to see it.
So then just like hypothetically, you're at this 1,700, 1,900 calorie range. Is your body gaining? I mean, everybody's different, but like mentality around this, because I think this is where most, I believe, women get stuck. It's like, oh my God, I'm eating
Yeah.
that much. Oh my God, I'm eating more. I'm going to gain weight. You're almost
Yeah.
literally going against everything that you thought, by eating
Right.
more to lose weight. So,
Right.
I know even just in our working together, the hand
Yeah.
holding involved in this trust process, and also honoring that like it is temporary. But how do you even explain that? Again, like someone listening who feels like, they don't eat a lot, they're eating salad, they're doing all the things,
Yeah.
they're working out, they don't see anything changing. Like
Yeah.
what are you saying to them? How are you working through this?
I'm just very transparent, like I want people to understand that, like, I mean, pretty much what I just said, like I want people to understand that they're not eating enough to be able to start that weight loss process right off the bat. And there's no other options, honestly. Like there isn't any more options. There's nothing else we can do. Like I refuse to put someone at 500 calories, like 900 to 1,000 is like the minimum and like bare minimum. And you can only really like stay at that for a few weeks. But yeah, I just try to be as transparent as possible. There's 3 things that happen as I'm adding food. I would say it's about like 33% of, like, it's very hard to say because everybody's body's different. But the 3 things that happen as I add food: one, as I'm adding food, you're going to lose weight and you're going to lose inches. That's the first situation that I see happen. 2, I see with some clients as I'm adding food, there is no weight loss, but their body composition's changing dramatically. And we can start to see those changes, and like that's amazing, but it's not like, that's not the goal. It does happen, but it's not the goal. The third situation is they don't see any changes and they don't see any weight loss. So I'm just very transparent from the beginning. I let people know that right now we're not in weight loss mode. If we do see changes as we're adding in food, then that is just an added bonus and we will take it. So I think just being as transparent as possible when I talk to clients, that first initial onboarding phone call. And if we have to go this route, I'm just very transparent. And I tell them, like, if you're looking for me to pull food back, like, I'm not going to do it. So some people I've had just say, this isn't a good fit. I appreciate your time. And then they move on and go to another coach that will feel comfortable putting them at 500. And like, that's just not me. So like, I'm in it to help people and, change the way they look at food. And it just, that's not healthy to be at that low calories for that long.
Hmm.
And I do think, because I'm like passionate about this and you can hear it in my voice when I talk to clients, these new clients, I think that they trust me, right? Like they know I'm working with all these different celebrities and I have this credibility. So it's like they come to me and they're at that point, they're usually like, I've done everything I can. I can't do anything else on my own. This is why I'm coming to you, and I give you full trust. And that was kind of like you, right? Like it was hard to tell you, like, hey, I'm going to add in food. There was some, fight back from that. And it's like, initially you think, oh my God, I'm going to start gaining weight. And it wasn't until you saw that we started adding that you weren't gaining and you started getting leaner it was like, hey, we're doing good. So I think it just comes to trusting it. People are coming to me and they're giving me that full trust, and they know that I'm here to help. And I think just being as transparent as I possibly can about the reverse diet process is key.
It's interesting, just like you said, you work with a lot of celebrities. So like Lauren Bostic, Skinny Confidential, Hillary Duff.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a ton of them, but I was actually listening to a Skinny Confidential podcast this morning with Dr. Andy Galpin, and they were talking about, diet and movement and weight training and whatever else. And I think that as we've discussed, like the body is so sensitive, the body is so unique, everybody is different. And, I wonder how, in your mind, because I know that also you have a fitness background, you work with fitness professionals, like what is the differentiator? Like, so I'm coming to you and I'm going to say it, I'm an athlete, like, and I've been an athlete for years and never fueled myself properly because I also had this lizard brain that was afraid I was going to get fat. So my body was so used to eating what it was without counting calories, just like probably under feeding myself. And as a result of that, I hadn't gotten a normal period, and there's more baked in my background and hormones, et cetera. And I think a lot of it was in a way, like emotionally, my body was holding on to really feeling like it could let go and be in a space where it could reproduce. But when I came to you, it was like, hey, I'm so active, like this is what I'm eating. And I know everything's custom, but like, how do you then deal with like the movement piece of all of this, right? And because I know it's a science, so movement, and then there's macros. So I guess just speaking
Yeah.
first to like this movement part.
Yeah, the movement, I mean, everybody is in a different situation. Like, some people don't have a lot of time to work out and they can only work out 30 minutes a day, or they can't even work out at all, right? Like I have moms that have jobs and work full time and they're trying to manage the house, and like there's just no time to work out. So it really is situational. Honestly, like I try to get people moving, even if it's 3 to 4 days a week of walking, like that's huge. Is it ideal? No, but I mean, at least it's something. And with me adjusting the food, that is what's going to cause the fat loss. It's not the working out. Like the working out, your body adapts to that, like we talked about before. Your body adapts to the food you eat, your body adapts to that activity. So if you normally work out 7 days a week for 2 hours a day, like that becomes your maintenance and you have to continue doing that. So like I wouldn't even touch on the workouts. I would just say, you've been doing this for so long, your body is used to what you're doing. Like you just have to keep doing what you're doing, and I will manage your food, and we'll be able to reach those goals from that. But there are like, it's just different for everybody, because some people have more time and they're able to work out more or be outside and hike and all of that good stuff. But it really kind of just depends on the situation. But really, like at the end of the day, the food is king. The food is everything. Like your workouts, at some point your body adapts, that becomes maintenance. It would be like, let's say you worked out 7 days a week for 2 hours. Let's say you ran for an hour, or did hills or did hiking or whatever it was, and you strength trained. If you did that for a period of time, your body will obviously adapt, like we're talking about. So if you were to get injured, like let's say you broke your leg or broke your ankle as you were hiking, your body would start to compound weight so fast, because your body is used to burning, X amount of calories a day. Even if your food stayed the same, you would still start to gain weight very rapidly. So there's a lot to be said with, doing the activity, doing so much activity, but it's all case by case. And some people do it for mental health. And, I just usually just say, whatever you're currently doing, like we'll talk about it, but whatever you're currently doing, continue doing that. And then after I reverse diet and I start pulling food back, that's normally when I would tell them like, hey, now is the time to start doing more activity, so that we can be in a bigger deficit than me just pulling the food back. So I like to add in some cardio as we're cutting and in a deficit, but like I said, it really is all situational. Some people are already working out so much. There's no, like, if that's the case, I can't add in any extra cardio. It's just like, it is what it is, and just keep doing what you're doing. But I do think there's like a time and place for it. Obviously, strength training is huge. Anything you can do to get blood in your muscles. As you know, more muscle burns fat. So like, I love when people are strength training, but as far as like the cardio goes on top of that, I do feel like there's just, there is a time and place for it. But like I said, it is very situational, and that's just kind of what it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, on that topic, I think I mentioned Lauren because she talks about her bowls of meat and strength training. And I think it's an interesting school of thought. And, coming from, like I said, this fitness cardio background, used to run so much and box, and, I was constantly moving. And I think
Yep.
as a result, too, my brain was also working so hard. Like I was just in this like fight, flight, freeze, like constant like autopilot. And
Yep.
now, coming from a more regulated place, I don't wake up like a tiger is chasing me to go like run a million miles. If anything, like I really have to feel like I'm in a space to want to do that. So I'm curious, as these shifts happen, like even when I shared prior, like I feel after working with you in so much more of a space of love and acceptance of myself, but also in this like food is not the enemy. Like I would say whatever you give your power to is what's taking your power. So there's been, it's been said, and I've been in a space where like I can't have peanut butter in the house because like I'll eat the whole jar. And to think that we could
Yeah.
give our power to a jar of peanut butter, right? And that isn't from
Yeah.
a body response, it's just from this anxiety. So,
Yep.
you know, when you sort of kind of come back to a place of self-regulation, because like the anxiety also, it might fuel the peanut butter, it might fuel the needing to run so much. When you come back to this place of calm and centered, I think how you relate to food just changes. Like you realize it isn't the enemy, it's really here for nourishment. And I think in that mind reframe, you also start to see like where else you're getting nourishment or you're lacking nourishment. And I think how we
Yeah.
relate to food has a lot to do with how we were nurtured. If when we
Yeah.
were young, we were just given a snack to be quiet or not allowed certain things to eat unless we were good for reward. So then we have
Yeah.
these strange attachments to food as we get older. So, I think maybe you realize this or not, like a lot of your work too is really like, it's like uncharging all of these things so that we can just come from a place of neutrality. Like you need to eat fat because your
Yeah.
body needs fat, your brain needs fat. You need to eat carbs,
Right.
your body needs energy. You need protein because it's what holds everything together, So
Right. And builds muscle. Yeah.
yeah, so but you know, all of that, I'm so curious of like back to this movement piece because I came to you, I was working out a lot. I always have been. I work out way less than I did, and I'm still quite active. But I wonder, like, and I always wonder this when we worked with macros, it was like, I need to be eating more carbs than protein, or, I need to up my fat, all of these other things, case by case basis. But like, does an active person just need more carbs? Like basic, yes, or like kind of thing.
Doesn't again, it depends what your body's
Depends.
used to. Like it's hard to say because if you're used to eating how you're used to eating, then like you're fine. You're maintaining off of that. Like you're happy, you look good, and like that's it. But like you could be feeling and looking so much better eating more food. Yes.
Hmm.
So like they're like carbs are not the enemy. Like if you're working out a lot during the week, then yeah, you should be eating more carbs, but like it's just not that easy and not that simple. Like you can't go from eating 50 grams of carbs a day and then just like eating 100 150 a day because you'd start gaining weight rapidly. So it's such a hard question. But yeah, I mean, if you're working out a lot, you should be eating a lot. If you're working out, if you're strength training 3 to 4 days a week, and then you're also doing cardio on top of that 3 4 days a week, and you're active 7 days a week, like I would say you should be eating anywhere from minimum like 1,500 calories, maximum like 1,900 to 2,000 for women. And it all depends on like height, weight, age, all obviously all of that. But yeah, I mean, because you have to think you have a metabolic rate where at rest you're burning calories. I've researched this a ton, and for most women, it's anywhere from 1,100 calories to 16 to 1,700 calories as far as their metabolic rate, where they're burning calories at rest. So you could literally be sitting on your couch all day, every day, and you would still burn at least 1,100 calories. So if you factor that in, you have 1,100 calories, from your basal metabolic rate, and then on top of that, you're also doing extra activity. You're working out. You're doing strength training. Like you could be burning 3 to 3,500 calories a day with your normal activities that you're doing, but you're only eating 1,000. So yeah. So I mean, food should always be higher if you're working out more and you're more active. Can you still maintain and can you still like have energy with eating less? Of course. But like for me, like I'm all about efficiency and like what's optimal. And like I want to eat as much food as I can because I want to keep building muscle or whatever the situation is.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Again, like
I know
it's so
I could see your brain
interesting.
I could see your brain like going right now.
Well, because I just
Just because
think,
I know
food has been so villainized, in so many ways. Like,
yeah,
particularly, I know you work predominantly with females. Like, there's
yeah,
such a like rampancy of disordered eating. I don't even want to say eating disorder because I think the
yeah.
majority of people have some sort of negative charge to food. And the more
Yep.
that I speak to people, the more that I spend time around different people, you just see these habits and these insecurities. I was recently around someone who he says it's high low. He only eats salad and he only eats sugar, but sugar like crazy desserts every night and salads all with mayo dressing and salt. And I was just watching this and like not criticizing, but to me, the only purpose of that or the only explanation for that is a fear of food, like a fear of
Yeah.
protein or
Yeah.
something else. And then this need to get calories at the end of the day. And then this, like the justification of like, oh, I love dessert. Oh, it's childlike.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're really just scared of food, right?
Yeah. That sounds like more of like a binging situation. Like you're saving all of your calories for sugar or dessert or whatever it is that you like to have every night, right? Like you're eating salads and so you're not getting in a lot of calories. Maybe the dressing is a decent amount of calories, but still it's nothing. And then if you have your big desserts at night, you're getting in the majority of your calories from sugar. And yeah, it's definitely not ideal. But like that's the thing about your body, is like it's such an amazing machine that it still ends up adapting, and you still like you can still live a normal life and feel okay somehow, right?
Right.
Like it's like you're what's the word I'm looking for? It's like you're settling, but your body's used to that, and like you're
Mhm.
okay feeling that way. You know what I mean? But knowing if you were eating more protein and you were eating more nutritious stuff and maybe just having those sugary things a few nights a week rather than 6 or 7, like he would probably feel considerably different. But now like he feels fine, so it's fine. So
Right.
it's I don't know, the
Yeah.
body is such an amazing machine. I tell you, it's
It
crazy.
really is. And I think I come from the school of like, this whole platform being about learning yourself to love yourself. And I think to love yourself, you have to really learn all the reasons why you don't. And in this
Yeah,
conversation about food, particularly, or movement, even, I think so often, food is weaponized or movement is done to the extent or like with the basis of I have to erase what I did last night or ate last night
yeah,
to punish
yeah,
yourself or to reward yourself. And I think for me, in my experience, it's really become about like taking the charge off of all of these things, like moving. I've spent most of the summer in the mountains to just hike instead of like being at a class, being here, needing to do this, checking the box, like really being intentional,
yeah.
like the mind body connection, and then feeling my body hungry and wanting to not reward it, but just to nourish
Fuel.
myself,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yes.
such a different relationship. And so I think like, when I came to you, I wasn't getting my period. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of history there I've shared on this podcast of, history of sexual trauma and it's sort of being related and my body never really feeling safe to be at homeostasis and you got a period, nature to reproduce. And so
Right.
it's been this kind of dance because on top of that, being super active, type A, entrepreneur, 11 years in New York City, always burning the candle at every end.
Right.
And in this settling, the last piece was like, what's going on? My body feels calm, my heart feels free, all of these things. And so when I came to it, was like, I'm just not getting my period. And when we
Right.
looked at it, you're like, okay, well, you're just not eating enough first, right? You move so
Right.
much, you're not eating enough. And it was kind of such like I really also believe in like timing and alignment when people come into your life. It was
Yeah.
interesting how it happened because I mean, we added calories and I was scared, but I was also felt super like trust in full trust of you,
Right.
and so nurtured in the space of you are a healer, you are a coach, and you're doing this. Yeah, sure, it's your business, but it probably doesn't even feel like you're doing anything. It's just who you are in a
Mhm.
way. And I really
Right.
felt that. Within, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks, I got my period for the first time in almost a year.
Yeah. No,
And
it
it
was
was
3 weeks.
three
I
weeks.
still can't. I still can't even believe it because like I've taken on cases like yours a lot, and usually it's like a 3, 4, 5 month situation where I'm adding food for that long slowly, and then the period ends up coming back. But like you said, this isn't like a one, I don't even know how to say it, like a one size fits all situation, right? Like there's trauma stuff from before. It wasn't just like you were overtraining and under eating, right? Like you came to me when the stars were aligned and you felt that. And by me just giving you that extra food and really focusing on the healthy fats, it was like after that third week, all of a sudden, like you had your cycle, and I'm just like, what, how is it? Like it was
Yeah.
crazy. But like I think stars did align, and we were meant to work with each other. And like in that timing and in that space, it was just like your body was ready. Like you were fueling a little bit more than what you were. You're eating more healthy fats, and your hormones just loved it, and your body was ready. And here you are. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean,
It never
and with that
happens
said,
that fast.
yeah, and like it's been 3 months consecutively, and it's just been interesting again about like alignment. I think when I asked you prior, like when do people come to you? And I know that answer just from people come when like there's nowhere else to go. I also think people
Yeah,
come when they're not necessarily ready and they probably pull back or it takes
yeah,
longer. For me, it was like in this year, and again, this has been a very long journey of many decades for me in getting a normal period. But like the alignment of when I got my cycle back, it was also like a year anniversary of something that happened to me a year ago that kind of shut me down. So I think like
okay,
anyone listening intuitively, like not only is your body so smart, your body adjusts. If it doesn't feel safe, your system shut down. And so we worked together. It was 3 weeks. I got a cycle. It was a month later, I got a cycle. And then it was like 10 days late on this next whatever journey. And I had changed locations. I was staying somewhere I wasn't necessarily fully like integrated, that I didn't know if I was safe, because just again, from like a primal need, we need safety, right? Especially as a
yeah,
woman, you need to feel safe to, have a cycle. And once my nervous system sort of calmed, like albeit 10 days late, everything started working again. So,
gotcha.
just a testament to your work, but then I also believe like whomever you're working with has to meet you, where you are, because you're always going to
Yeah,
show up. And
yeah,
then learning to trust you, this process, and then your own like knowing self body to allow things to all sort of, work as they should. Because
right.
I always say too, like, and I imagine you have thoughts on this, like we're born as we're born, like with love, with all systems go, as long as it's like, a healthy process. And then we sort of slack on all these conditionings and limited beliefs and these habits and reward systems, or, weaponization of food, sustenance, nurture, nourishment. And I think so much of what you do too, back to like sort of the emotional, psychological component, is just bringing you back there.
Yeah,
Like you're safe, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And by you holding that safe container and adding in more food, calories, all these things that I assume most of your clients come to you and you're like, oh my God, no, I can't eat that. And you're like,
yeah,
but you can,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's just making people feel comfortable and, trusting. And yeah, I don't know. But like you said, though, you have to be in that space. Like you have to be ready. Like I feel like a lot of times people come to me and they're not fully like ready, and they stay for a few months and that's it. But then they come back and it's like, I'm ready to do this now. So it really like, I don't know. I see a lot too, because I work with, the majority women. And then it's like a lot of women want their husbands to join because like, they want to get in shape, or they've asked questions, but they're not fully ready. And I always tell them like, don't push him. Like when he's ready, then he'll be ready. But until then, like I've seen way too many people like make their husbands or spouses sign up, and then all of a sudden it's like it's just a waste and nothing ever comes of it. So like if
Mm.
people know, like when you're ready to make that change, and for some people it's like a medical situation, they get blood work done, and all of a sudden like whatever's high or whatever it is, and it's like then they reach out. So like I don't know. I wish I would be able to reach more, wish there was a way for me to reach more people before that situation happened, like the medical situation. But yeah,
Yeah, I love that you say that too. And I think it goes back to, I'm always going to bring it to like the emotional part. There's again, like when you watch a child eat, when they're full, they stop eating. There
right.
is no binging. You learn that
Right.
behavior somewhere,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
reward system, or a child eat. If they're hungry, they're going to eat. They're not going to starve themselves because they want to fit in their jumper.
Right. 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 Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think just like the feelings around food are so related to the way that, your body will feel around
Yeah.
food. And
Yeah.
again, to anyone listening who feels stuck in whatever cycle they're in, that they have these rules or don't feel this food freedom. Do I believe in food freedom? I believe in it. Do I think that it is a constant? Ideally, I hope. And then, you could put on a pair of pants one day and your body's holding onto water or a little bit
Right.
inflamed from weight training the day before. And it's like just finding self-compassion to be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so we see that a lot with the scale too, like all of a sudden someone will jump up and weight 2 pounds in a week when they've been fully compliant and it's impossible that they could gain 2 pounds. So it's like, some people, like the majority of my people weigh in, but I still have at least a handful of people that didn't feel comfortable with it because they just didn't want to get like thrown in a tailspin where if they did see that weight jump up 2 pounds in a week, then like they're off, right? Like then they're just like screw it and then they binge and all of that. So, like just finding, I don't know, just giving yourself grace with everything when it comes to this scale, if you're weighing in or not. If you have a bad day and like you not bad day, but like you feel like you had to eat out, and let's say you may have overdone it, like just giving yourself grace and say, like it's just food. Like you're gonna be okay and we'll get right back at it tomorrow. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just to like piggyback on that, it's just food. The scale thing is interesting. I haven't owned a scale since college. Like I didn't weigh
yeah.
in, check in. It's not
Right.
something I'm comfortable with because I know I don't know how I would relate to it now, but I know that at some point in my journey, I decided I wasn't a number and I wouldn't be defined by it. To the extent that
Yeah.
still doctor's office, I'll like turn around. I know what I weighed, whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't want to feel wed to a number because I think ultimately it's really how you feel. And it's
Yep.
so easy for us to get caught up in the weight, the scale, the thing, and then start sort of picking as opposed to
Yeah.
just knowing like you're not your weight. Like if you feel good, if
Right.
your body is working properly, like you're okay. And the
Yeah.
other thing that came to you and just saying that was like went to dinner and binge, whatever. I think for me, a big change too was, and this sounds so woo, but like being present with your food. Maybe you say grace before you eat because like, thank you, God, for this food. It didn't come from nowhere,
Right.
right?
Right.
And really tasting and enjoying and again, the word nourishing the body. And it's so different than, stuffing it all in
Yeah.
to get rid of
Yeah.
it and then going to grab more because you're not feeding your body, you're feeding your anxiety,
Right. Yeah.
or your
Yeah.
feelings.
Right. And I feel like a lot of that too comes like with just like habits. Like I talk to a lot of women and it just seems like, during those times, when they would just watch what their moms would do. And a lot of the moms were, restricting or they were doing some type of program, right? There was always some type of program they were on. So I don't know. It's just breaking the cycle and trying to like just teach that it is just food, right? Like it's just food. There's really, of course there's good and bad, there's fried food, there's not, but like food's just food. So just I don't know, there's a lot of anxiety with is a lot, I don't know, I don't know where I was going with this, but like I know that I've talked to so many women and a lot of times they take on these habits just by what they saw their mom doing when they were growing up. So like I will say this, that is something that I think now, I mean obviously we know like our kids are always watching, like we have 11 and 12-year-old and like they're always watching. And I just took on this client that she was just so thrown off with food and didn't even know what to do. Like she was eating sardines and she was just eating the most random stuff and she wasn't eating with her family. And like I really tried to explain like how like our kids need to see us eating together as a family and them eating the same food you're eating and this and that. And like we've been working together for a little over a month and it's amazing. Like her husband has complimented her so many times and just said how much happier she is because she has a plan and she's eating flexibly. And now she's able to eat with her family for dinner. And it's just, she said it's been a game changer on many different levels. So,
Beautiful.
like our kids are always watching for whoever's listening. Like our kids are always watching and like we want to, instill good habits and saying, I need to lose weight or I need to do this or I need to do that probably isn't the most ideal thing to say to your kids that are growing and that are younger because they are going to grow up thinking the same thing, and it's just It's not ideal. So
Right. And then this idea that, you're never good enough and that
yeah,
you're defined by your weight. And back to
yeah,
this, what you mentioned about like not eating with the family, et cetera, coming from an eating disordered background, as a teenager, I would always find an excuse not to come to the dinner table.
yeah,
And, how I see food, and then ended up going to culinary school was like this need to control. It was so masochistic. And then, going into the fitness world. And I think the fitness world is the most disordered eating than any world, because again, it's a
yeah,
control thing. And so,
yeah,
again, anyone listening, like I come from a space of never feeling good enough around food, always being charged by it, always tied to my emotion. And like the way that I feel now, it's like there's such a beauty and a reverence for it and for my body, and this idea of coming together around food, around the kitchen. It really is family, it is community, it is sustenance, it's nourishment. And that's, again, it was one of my like fears in working, like tracking and macros and what is all of this. And I think the way that I found a way to work flexibly too in your programming was like, hey, I'm going to eat this. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to log it in, and not feel so, I don't want to say wed to a plan, because we all, this needs a plan, but it was in a way that it felt good still, And so I think no matter what you're working towards, working through, like allow it to feel good, because all of this stuff, it's from a place of constriction, control, and again, back to like how we were brought into this world. It wasn't from anything like that. It was like pure
yeah,
love,
yeah,
pure light, pure magic, So I think anything can return to that space of love when you stop putting so much pressure on an outcome or what it might do to you. And even in that way with like how you want chocolate. Okay, so we'll build it into your plan. You eat a piece of chocolate every night after. Great. Like you're not a hard no, because like that's not how you live. That's not living. It's
yeah, yeah,
existing, right? So
yeah,
yeah. So how do people find you? Because I've said this many times. I so recommend your work, and beyond even
yeah,
the work, it's really how you curate this commitment to the betterment of humanity. Like really at its core,
right,
you're really bringing people back to eating with their family, to love of their body,
yeah,
feeling safe
yeah,
and comfortable. So thank you for what you
yeah, yes. You're welcome. Thank you.
how do people find you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much Instagram. That's the best way. I mean, there's a lot of like, there's a handful of flexible dieting coaches. So mine's just the flexible.dieting.coach. I have a lot of articles with that I did with Hillary Duff and the Every Girl. Like I've done a bunch of articles, so you can easily just type in like in Google Eric Young and then macros, or Eric Young macros article, or just Eric Young and Hillary Duff all pop up everywhere, because we've have so many articles that have been put out from what we've done. So yeah, it shouldn't be hard to find me.
Okay, perfect. And I'll put, all the
Yes.
information in the show notes. And
Yeah.
I hope that you find Eric, because he is so his work is just so beautiful. It's been so life-changing for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thank you so much. I was pleasure coaching you, and thank you so much for having me on. I love telling my story, and like I really do just want to help people. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, it's working.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, for